The mirror exploded behind her, and Zinnia's blood painted the marble floor like spilled wine. She looked up at her husband through the haze of shock, waiting for concern that would never come. Instead, Caspian Sterling stepped over her bleeding body, grabbed his scotch, and delivered the words that would destroy them both. "I would sooner hug a mangy dog from the gutter than let your skin touch mine. You aren't a wife. You're a debt I'm forced to pay." The room spun, her vision blurred, and as consciousness slipped away on her wedding night, Zinnia Vance made a silent vow. "He will regret this. He will regret me. And when he finally falls, I'll be the one standing over him, watching him bleed." What she didn't know was that 5 years later, she'd keep that promise. Before we begin this journey of betrayal, redemption, and shocking truth, if you're ready to witness a love destroyed and rebuilt from ashes, hit that subscribe button right now. Because this story will take you through tears, rage, and a twist so powerful you'll need to watch it twice to believe it. Drop a comment telling me, have you ever given someone a second chance they didn't deserve? Let's talk about it. Now, let's see how a woman with nothing became everything, and how a man who had everything lost it all in one devastating night. The rain hammered against the windows of Sterling Manor like accusations. Zinnia Vance stood in the marble foyer, her wedding dress still damp from the courthouse ceremony that had taken all of 12 minutes. No flowers, no music, just a judge who looked bored and aggrieved, who looked like he'd swallowed poison. She touched the gold band on her finger. It felt cold. Mrs. Sterling, the housekeeper, an older woman named Margaret, appeared with a towel. "You'll catch your death. Let me help you upstairs." "Thank you." Zinnia's voice came out smaller than she intended. Margot's eyes held pity, and somehow that made everything worse. The East Wing bedroom was beautiful in a museum kind of way. Everything looked expensive and untouched. Zinnia sat on the edge of the bed, her father's last words echoing in her mind. "Caspian's father is a good man, Zinnia. He promised me you'd be taken care of. That boy just needs time to see who you really are." Her father had died 3 days after extracting that promise. Cancer had eaten through him fast, but his faith in old friendships had remained unshaken. She changed into a simple nightgown, something soft and cream-colored her aunt had given her. The mirror showed a woman trying to be brave. Brown skin glowing against pale fabric, eyes that wanted to hope. The door opened without a knock. Caspian Sterling entered like winter itself. 6 feet of golden perfection. Ice, blue eyes scanning the room as if cataloging everything he'd been forced to accept. His tuxedo jacket was gone. His white shirt was unbuttoned at the collar. He looked like a fallen angel, beautiful and cruel. "We need to establish boundaries." His voice could have frozen water. Zinnia stood. "Caspian, I know this isn't what you wanted. You know nothing about what I want." She flinched but held her ground. "My father believed in yours. He believed in you. Your father was sentimental. Mine was weak." Caspian poured himself a drink from the crystal decanter by the window. They traded in outdated notions of honor and brotherhood. Ideal in reality. What reality is that? He turned, and his gaze moved over her like she was something distasteful. "That I've been shackled to a woman I didn't choose. That my bloodline has been compromised by my father's guilt over a war buddy's dying wish." The words hit like fists. Zinnia's hands trembled. I didn't ask for this either. I had plans, a life, dreams that didn't include being married to someone who looks at me like I'm garbage. Then we agree on something. He drained his glass. We'll live separately. You'll have an allowance. In public, we'll be civil. In private, we don't exist to each other. For how long? Until I find a way out of this contract my father signed. His jaw tightened. There are lawyers reviewing it now. Zinnia felt something crack inside her chest. She'd prepared herself for coldness, for distance. But this active hatred, this venom, she hadn't expected that. She moved toward him, not thinking, just needing to bridge some gap. Caspian, please.
Can't we at least try?
My father said you were kind once, that you used to. Don't. He held up a hand. Don't come near me. But she'd already reached for him, her fingers brushing his arm in what was meant to be comfort. He jerked back like she'd burned him. The violence of it sent her stumbling. Her hip caught the corner of an antique side table. She reached for balance and found the gilded mirror instead. It happened in slow motion, her weight against the glass. The sound of cracking. The explosion of silver shards across marble. Pain blooming sharp across her forehead. Zinnia crashed to the floor in a cascade of broken mirror and blood. For a moment, there was only silence. Then Caspian's voice, not concerned, but disgusted. Are you actually bleeding on that rug? Do you know what it's worth? She looked up at him through the haze of shock. Blood dripped into her eye. The room tilted. He stood there, drink still in hand, unmoved. I would sooner embrace a mangy stray off the street than let your skin touch mine. Each word was enunciated with precision. You aren't a wife. You're a debt I'm forced to pay. Zinnia tried to speak, but her throat had closed around a sob. Don't cry. He set down his glass with a decisive click. Margaret will clean you up. I'll be staying at my club tonight. And most nights. Don't wait up. He walked out, his shoes crunching over broken glass. Zinnia sat in the wreckage, blood mixing with tears, and something inside her began to die. Not quickly, not mercifully, but with the slow certainty of a flower denied light. Margaret found her there 20 minutes later, still sitting among the shards, staring at nothing. Oh, child. The older woman knelt carefully, her hands gentle as she examined the cut. This needs stitches. He hates me. Zinnia's voice sounded far away. He really hates me. He's a fool. My father promised I'd be safe here. Margot's hands stilled. Safe from the world, maybe. But who protects us from beautiful men with empty hearts? That night, after the doctor left, after the stitches pulled tight across her forehead, Zinnia lay in the enormous bed and cried until her body simply gave out. She fainted somewhere around 3 in the morning, exhaustion and grief pulling her under. When she woke, sun was streaming through windows she didn't remember being opened. Her head throbbed. The pillow was stained with blood and mascara. On the nightstand sat a note in Margaret's handwriting. Eat something. There's broth in the kitchen. Mr. Sterling won't be home for several days. Several days became several weeks. The pattern established itself with brutal efficiency. Caspian came home only when necessary, usually for appearances at family functions. He spoke to her in clipped sentences. Never touched her. Never looked at her longer than required. At formal dinners, he'd place his hand on the small of her back for photographs. And she could feel him stiffen, counting seconds until he could pull away. His friends noticed. Of course they noticed. Different than your usual type. Caspian. Bradley Ashworth had said at a charity gala, his eyes roaming over Zinnia in a way that made her skin crawl. Quite exotic. Caspian's smile had been sharp as knives. Yes, well, sometimes we make sacrifices for family. Zinnia had excused herself to the bathroom and vomited. 3 months in, she tried one more time. She'd cooked dinner herself, sending Margot home early. Her mother's recipe for braised short ribs, the smell filling the entire east wing. She'd set the table with candles, worn a dress the color of honey. Caspian arrived at 8, saw the setup, and laughed. It wasn't a kind sound. What is this? He gestured at the table. Some romantic fantasy. I thought we could talk. Actually talk. Zinnia's voice was steady despite her hammering heart. We're married, Caspian. We can't live like strangers forever. We're not strangers. He loosened his tie. Strangers I'd treat with basic courtesy. What did I do to you? What did I do to deserve this? He looked at her then, really looked at her, and she saw something flicker in those ice blue eyes. Not warmth. Something worse. Contempt mixed with a strange kind of fear. You exist, he said simply. You walk through my home with your father's ghost on your shoulders and my father's expectations in your eyes. You're a living reminder that I'm not free, that I never will be. So you punish me for your father's choices. I survived them. He turned away. I'll be at Sloane's tonight. Don't wait up. Sloane Whitmore. The socialite with platinum hair and a smile full of secrets. Zinnia had seen her photograph in the society pages, usually hanging on Caspian's arm. You're cheating on me. The words came out flat. Cheating implies we have a real marriage. Caspian grabbed his keys. We have a contract, and I'm honoring the letter of it, if not the spirit. You have a roof. Money. My name. What more could you want? Basic human decency. He paused at the door. For a second, she thought maybe she'd reached him. Decency, he repeated, tasting the word. My father was decent. It made him weak. It made him promise things he had no right to promise. And now I'm paying for his decency with my entire future. I never asked to be your prison sentence. No, you just asked to be my wife. His hand tightened on the doorknob. Worse luck for both of us. He left, and the candles burned down alone. Zinnia sat at the table for hours, watching wax pool and harden. At midnight, she made a decision. She wouldn't beg anymore. Wouldn't cook meals he'd never eat, or wait for conversations he'd never have. She'd survive this marriage the same way he was, by going through the motions, by protecting what was left of herself. But 3 weeks later, everything changed. She missed her period. Then, the nausea started. The doctor confirmed it with a blood test. 8 weeks pregnant. Twins. Zinnia sat in her car outside the clinic, hands shaking on the steering wheel, and tried to breathe. She was carrying Caspian Sterling's children, the man who couldn't stand to look at her, who recoiled from her touch like she carried disease. She had to tell him. Despite everything, he had a right to know. She waited until he came home 3 days later, catching him in his study before he could disappear again. I need to talk to you. Her voice was calm. She'd practiced this. It's important. Caspian didn't look up from his laptop. Unless the house is burning down, it can wait. I'm pregnant. His fingers stopped moving on the keyboard. The silence stretched so long she wondered if he'd heard her. Then he closed the laptop very carefully and looked up. His face was completely blank. Impossible. The doctor confirmed it yesterday. 8 weeks. Twins. Something crossed his face there and gone too fast to read. We haven't. The wedding night. Her cheeks burned. Before you pushed me. Before the mirror. You were drunk. You don't remember. His jaw worked. This is a trap. What? You planned this. He stood, and she saw fury in every line of his body. You somehow planned this to lock me in. Zinnia's shock turned to anger. You think I wanted to bring children into this nightmare? You think I wanted to tie myself to a man who treats me like something he scraped off his shoe? Then get rid of it. The words fell like stones. Them, she whispered. Get rid of them. They're not an eat. They're your children. They're a mistake. His voice was ice. One I'm not willing to compound by bringing unwanted children into the world. I want them. Then raise them on your own. He pulled out his phone. I'll have my lawyer draw up papers. You'll get a settlement. Enough to live comfortably. But I want a divorce, and I want you gone. Zinnia felt the floor tilt under her feet. 6 months of coldness and cruelty had prepared her for many things, but not this. Not being thrown away while carrying his children. Your father is dead. Caspian cut her off. And his promises died with him. I've found a loophole in the contract. Your father never specified length of marriage. 6 months satisfies the legal requirement. You've been planning this since day one. He smiled, and it was the cruelest thing she'd ever seen. Did you really think I'd spend my life chained to you? Watching you grow round with children who'll always remind me of the worst mistake my father ever made. Something broke in Zinnia then, not her heart. That had broken months ago. This was deeper. This was the foundation of who she'd been crumbling away. Get out. Her voice was strange, distant. Get out of my sight. Gladly. He moved to the door, paused. The papers will be delivered tomorrow. Sign them. Take the money. Disappear. If you ever try to contact me about these children, I'll make your life hell. You already have. He left without another word. Zinnia stood in the study until her legs gave out. She collapsed into his chair, the leather still warm from his body, and felt her sons move inside her for the first time. Tiny flutters like butterfly wings. She placed both hands on her stomach. I'm sorry, she whispered to them. I'm sorry your father is a monster. But I promise you, I promise on everything I am, you will never feel unwanted. Never feel less than. I will love you enough for 2 parents. I will give you everything. The next morning, the divorce papers arrived. That afternoon, there was a storm. And that night, Caspian Sterling came home drunk and furious because Sloane had stood him up for some business dinner. He found Zinnia packing in the East Wing bedroom. Good, he slurred. You're leaving. Finally doing something right. She didn't look at him. Just kept folding clothes with mechanical precision. Did you hear me? He stumbled closer. I said you're finally. I heard you. Her voice was empty. I hear everything you say, Caspian. Every cruel word. Every hateful look. I collect them like scars. Spare me the victim act. She turned then, and whatever he saw in her face made him step back. I'm not a victim, she said quietly. Not anymore. I'm just done. Done hoping you'll wake up human. Done believing there's anything decent left inside you. Then sign the papers and go. I signed them this morning. She handed him the folder. Your lawyer has them. I took nothing but what my father left me. You're free, Caspian. Congratulations. He stared at the folder like it might bite him. Just like that? Just like that. She zipped her suitcase. Margot's calling me a cab. I'll be gone in 20 minutes. You'll never have to see me again. And he gestured vaguely at her stomach. They're not your concern. You made that clear. He opened his mouth, closed it. For a second, something almost like regret flickered across his face. Then it was gone. Good luck, he said stiffly. I don't need luck. Zinnia picked up her suitcase. I have something better. I have nothing left to lose. She walked past him, down the grand staircase, through the foyer where she'd first entered as a bride. Margot was crying by the door. You'll call me. The housekeeper gripped her hands. You'll let me know you're safe. I promise. And the babies. Zinnia's smile was small but real. I'll send pictures. The cab pulled up. Rain poured down in sheets. Zinnia took one last look at Sterling Manor, at the lit windows and perfect architecture, at the prison that had almost destroyed her. Then she climbed into the cab and didn't look back. Behind her, standing in the doorway, Caspian Sterling watched her taillights disappear into the storm. He told himself he felt nothing. He told himself he'd won. But somewhere deep inside, where truth lived, a voice whispered that he'd just made the biggest mistake of his life. He silenced it with another drink. 5 years later, Caspian Sterling stood on the balcony of his penthouse, watching Newport spread out below like a kingdom he owned. And he did own most of it. Sterling Enterprises had tripled in value. His face graced magazine covers. Forbes called him the Midas of New England. At 32, he had everything. Darling, come back to bed. Sloane Whitmore appeared in the doorway, wrapped in silk that cost more than most people's rent. Her platinum hair caught the morning light like a halo. Meeting in an hour, Caspian said, not turning around. You work too hard. She pressed against his back, her perfume cloying. When are you going to relax and enjoy what you've built? When it's enough. It's never enough with you, is it? Her laugh was wind chimes, pretty and empty. That's what I love about you. Love. The word sat wrong between them. They'd been together 4 years, the relationship starting 2 months after Zinnia disappeared. Sloane was perfect on paper. Old money. Connected. Beautiful in the way magazine spreads demanded. But sometimes, late at night, Caspian woke up and couldn't remember her face. The board meeting today. Sloane continued, her fingers walking up his spine. I've been thinking about the Singapore expansion. You're not on the board. Not yet. Her smile widened. But I should be, don't you think? We're practically married. I've been patient, Caspian. 4 years is a long engagement. There it was. The pressure that had been building for months. Marriage. Something cold twisted in his gut. He'd been divorced for 5 years, but the word still tasted like ashes. We've discussed this, he said carefully. The company needs. The company is fine. Better than fine. Sloane moved around to face him. What it needs is stability. A power couple at the helm. Sterling and Whitmore. Think of the optics. Always optics with her. Never feelings. But wasn't that what he wanted? Someone who understood the game. I'll think about it. You always say that. Her eyes hardened slightly. I'm not going to wait forever, Caspian. His phone buzzed, saving him from answering. His assistant. Your GN flashed across the screen. I need to take this. Sloane's smile went brittle. Of course you do. The call was brief and brutal. 3 board members wanted an emergency meeting. Something about irregularities in the Singapore accounts. Caspian's blood went cold. He'd signed off on those transfers personally. Sloane had brought him the proposal 6 months ago. Her connections, in Asia, she'd said. Guaranteed returns. Sloane asked when he hung up. The Singapore deal. There are questions. What kind of questions? The kind that require lawyers. He grabbed his jacket. I need to go. Something flickered in her eyes. Too fast to catch. Want me to come? I know those accounts inside and out. No, stay here. I'll handle it. If you're sure. She kissed his cheek, and her lips felt like ice. The emergency meeting was a massacre. Bradley Ashworth, his oldest friend, stood at the head of the conference table, looking like he'd aged 10 years overnight. Caspian, sit down. What's going on? The Singapore transfers. Bradley slid a folder across the table. They're fraudulent. Shell companies. Money laundering. The SEC is already investigating. The room tilted. Caspian opened the folder with numb fingers. Pages of transactions. His signature on every one. Approvals he barely remembered giving. This isn't possible. Your signature is on everything. Margaret Chen. The CFO looked sick. Every transfer. Every approval. It all traces back to you. I was told these were legitimate investments. By whom? Bradley's voice was sharp. Caspian's mouth went dry. Sloane brought me the opportunity. Her contact in Singapore, a man named. There is no contact. Margaret interrupted. We traced it. The Singapore firm doesn't exist. The address is an empty warehouse. Every dollar you transferred went into offshore accounts we can't touch. How much? The silence was deafening. How much? Caspian's voice cracked. $43 million. The number hit like a physical blow. And it gets worse, Bradley said quietly. The paper trail makes it look like you planned this. Like you were siphoning money deliberately. Whoever set this up knew exactly what they were doing. Sloane. The name fell from Caspian's lips like a stone. It was Sloane. Can you prove that? He couldn't. Every signature was his. Every approval had his fingerprints. She'd been so careful, so patient, building the trap one innocent request at a time. The board is voting to remove you, Margaret said. Today, we have no choice. The SEC investigation, the missing money. We need a scapegoat, Caspian. And right now, that's you. Bradley leaned forward. If you're smart, you'll run. Leave the country before they freeze everything. I can give you 12 hours, maybe 20, 4 before. Numb, Caspian stood, legs shaking. I didn't do this. I won't run like I'm guilty. Then you're a fool, Margaret said without malice. Because guilty or not, you're finished. She was right. By noon, his accounts were frozen. By 3, federal agents were at his penthouse. By 6, his face was on every news channel. Billionaires fall from grace. Caspian Sterling accused of massive fraud. And through it all, Sloane Whitmore was nowhere to be found. His calls went to voicemail. Her apartment was empty. Her friends claimed they hadn't seen her in days. She'd vanished like smoke. Bradley found him at midnight. sitting in his office with the lights off. Everyone's gone. Caspian said to the darkness, the board, my friends. Even my lawyer stopped returning calls. You're radioactive. Bradley poured 2 drinks. Nobody wants to burn with you. I'm already burning. Bradley's smile was sad. My wife's family is threatening to pull their investments if I don't distance myself. I have kids, Caspian. A mortgage. I can't go down with you. I understand. Do you? Bradley set the glass down. 5 years ago, I told you that girl you married was too good for you. You laughed. Said I was being sentimental. Caspian's jaw tightened. Don't. That was her name, right? The one you threw away like garbage. This has nothing to do with her, doesn't it? Bradley moved to the door. You spent 5 years choosing ambition over decency, choosing women like Sloane who see you as a balance sheet. Maybe this is just karma. My friend, get out. I'm sorry, Caspian. I really am. Bradley paused at the threshold. But you made your bed. Now you have to lie in it. The door closed with a final click. Caspian sat alone in the office he'd built, surrounded by awards and photographs of a life that no longer existed. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. Against his better judgment, he answered. Hello, darling. Sloane's voice was honey and poison. Enjoying your fall. You did this. It wasn't a question. I did. She laughed, bright and terrible. Every signature you gave me, every trust you placed, I used them all. You made it so easy, Caspian. You were so busy admiring yourself, you never saw the knife coming. Why? Because I could. Her voice hardened. Because men like you need to learn that the world doesn't revolve around your beautiful face and your old money name. You used me for 4 years as arm candy, never once seeing me as anything but decoration. So I decorated your destruction. I gave you everything. You gave me nothing but table scraps from your kingdom. She cut him off. But don't worry. I'll take good care of Sterling Enterprises. The board voted me interim CEO this afternoon. Funny how that works. The line went dead. Caspian stared at the phone in his hand and felt the last piece of his world crumble. She hadn't just destroyed him. She'd taken everything and made it hers. The next 3 weeks were a blur of lawyers, depositions and doors closing in his face. His assets stayed frozen. Criminal charges loomed. His family name became a punchline. One morning, he woke up in a motel outside Providence and couldn't remember how he'd gotten there. His reflection in the mirror showed a stranger, unshaven, hollow-eyed, the golden boy gone grey. He'd lost everything. The company, the penthouse, his reputation, his future, and he had no one to blame but himself. Because Bradley had been right. This wasn't just Sloane's revenge. This was the universe settling accounts. He'd spent 5 years stepping on people, using them, discarding them. Now he knew how it felt. His phone rang. Another unknown number. What? He answered, too tired to care anymore. Mr. Sterling. A woman's voice, professional and cool. My name is Rebecca Torres. I'm with Vance Capital Management. We'd like to discuss your legal situation. I can't afford lawyers. Our services are pro bono. We specialize in cases of corporate fraud where the accused has been framed. Caspian sat up slowly. Why would you help me? Because my employer believes everyone deserves a second chance. Even people who don't deserve it. Something in her tone made his skin prickle. Who's your employer? Al will be explained if you agree to meet. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. Savannah, Georgia. I'll send you the address. I can't travel. My passport has been temporarily reinstated by a federal judge. You'll find the paperwork in your email. She hung up before he could ask how that was possible. The email arrived 30 seconds later. First-class train ticket to Savannah, hotel reservation, and a court order allowing him to travel. Caspian stared at the screen until his eyes burned. Someone with serious power wanted to see him. Someone who could move federal judges and unfreeze enough money for a train ticket. He should have been suspicious, should have questioned everything. But he was drowning, and this was a rope. So the next day, he got on the train, and 36 hours later, he stood in front of a sleek glass building in downtown Savannah, his heart hammering, waiting to meet the person who held his last chance at redemption. The receptionist smiled. "Mr. Sterling, she's expecting you." Top floor. The elevator ride felt like ascending to judgment. The doors opened to reveal an office that could have graced Architectural Digest. Floor, tip-ceiling windows. Modern art. Success in every carefully chosen detail. And behind a massive desk, backlit by the afternoon sun, sat a woman who made Caspian's heart stop. Zinnia. Caspian's legs forgot how to work. Zinnia Vance Sterling rose from behind the desk, and she was nothing like the broken girl he'd thrown away. Her hair was cut short, framing a face that had traded softness for steel. A charcoal suit, hugged curves he didn't remember, tailored to perfection. Diamond studs caught the light. Her brown skin glowed with health and power. But her eyes, God, her eyes were glaciers. "Hello, Caspian." Her voice could have frozen oceans. "Set down before you fall down." He couldn't speak, couldn't move. His brain refused to process what he was seeing. I said sit. Not a request, a command. His body obeyed before his mind caught up. He collapsed into the chair across from her desk like a puppet with cut strings. Zinnia sat back down, movements precise and controlled. She steepled her fingers, studying him like a scientist examining a specimen. "You look terrible," she observed. "How?" His voice cracked. "How is this possible? How am I alive? Successful. Not destroyed by the divorce you forced on me while I was pregnant." Her smile could cut glass. "Is that what you're asking?" "All of it." He managed to breathe. "Any of it. The short version. I survived." "That's going to cost you." "Zinnia, Mrs. Sterling," she corrected. "Or Ms. Vance, if you prefer. But you lost the right to my first name 5 years ago." The formality hurt more than he expected. A knock on the door made him jump. "Come in," Zinnia called. Rebecca Torres entered carrying a file, but Caspian barely noticed her. Because behind Rebecca, 2 small boys tumbled into the office, arguing about something in the way only brothers could. "Mum, Alaric took my..." The first boy stopped dead when he saw Caspian. Caspian's heart simply stopped beating. The child had his eyes. Ice, blue and startling against sun-kissed brown skin. Golden hair curled at his temples. He was maybe 4 years old and absolutely beautiful. "Soren, manners," Zinnia said calmly. "Sorry." The boy straightened up, suddenly formal. "I didn't know you had a meeting." The second boy appeared from behind his brother. Identical eyes, same hair, same devastating mixture of Caspian's features and Zinnia's grace. Twins, his sons. The room spun. "This is Soren." Zinnia gestured to the first boy. "And Alaric." Boys, say hello to Mr. Sterling. He's a client. Hello, Mr. Sterling, they caroused in unison. A client. She'd reduced him to a stranger. Rebecca, take them to the playroom, please. Zinnia's voice remained steady. We'll finish our meeting in an hour. Of course. Rebecca herded the boys out, but not before Alaric turned back. Are you okay, mister? You look sick. Caspian couldn't answer. His throat had closed completely. Zinnia waited until the door clicked shut. Then she stood and walked to the bar in the corner, pouring water into a crystal glass. Drink this before you pass out. I don't need you dying on my carpet. He took the glass with shaking hands. Water spilled over his fingers. They're mine. It came out as a whisper. Biologically, yes. In every way that matters, no. They don't know who you are, Caspian. They never have. You kept them from me. I kept them safe from you, she corrected, voice sharp as a blade. From a man who told me to get rid of them. Who called his own children a mistake. Who threw their pregnant mother out in a storm. Each word landed like a blow. I was wrong. His voice broke. God, Zinnia, I was so wrong about everything. Yes, you were. She returned to her desk, all business. But we're not here to discuss your regrets. We're here to discuss your future. What's left of it? Why? He looked up at her. This woman he'd destroyed, who'd somehow become a force of nature. Why would you help me after everything I did? Because my father made your father a promise. That promise extended to you, whether you deserved it or not. Her jaw tightened. And because my sons deserve to know their father isn't in prison, even if they'll never know him personally. The distinction cut deep. What do you want from me? Nothing you'd miss. Zinnia pulled out a document. I'm going to clear your name. My legal team has already traced the real money trail. We can prove Sloan Whitmore orchestrated everything. We have evidence that will not only exonerate you, but destroy her. Hope flared, painful and bright. Why haven't you released it? Because I want something in return. There it was. The trap he'd been waiting for. Anything, he said immediately. I'll give you anything. I want you to walk away. Confusion clouded his face. Walk away from what? Everything. Sterling Enterprises. Newport. Your old life. All of it. She slid a contract across the desk. Sign this, and I'll save you. You'll be free. Vindicated. But you'll disappear. Start over somewhere else. New name if you want it. New life. And you'll never contact me or my sons again. The words hit like bullets. You're asking me to give up my children. I'm asking you to do what you already did 5 years ago. Zinnia said coldly. Only this time, make it permanent. Legal, clean. I can't. You will. Because the alternative is federal prison for the next 20 years. Your choice. Caspian stared at the contract, his freedom in exchange for his sons. A devil's bargain. What if I refuse? What if I fight for them? Zinnia's laugh was brittle. With what? You're broke. Disgraced. Facing criminal charges. What judge would give you custody? What lawyer would take your case? She leaned forward. I, on the other hand, am a successful CEO with unlimited resources and 0 scandals. I've been their only parent for 5 years. In the eyes of the law, you're nobody to them. I'm their father. You're a sperm donor. Her voice went soft, which was somehow worse than her anger. A father is someone who shows up, who sacrifices, who loves unconditionally. You're none of those things. Desperation crept into his voice. Give me a chance. Let me prove. None. The word was final. You had your chance. The night I told you I was pregnant. The day you threw divorce papers in my face. Every moment you chose pride over humanity. You failed every test, Caspian. There are no retakes. He looked at the contract through blurring vision. How did you do this? Build all this? For the first time, something flickered in her expression. Not quite softness, but close. I remembered what my father told me before he died. That I was stronger than I knew. That storms pass but roots remain. She glanced toward the door, where her sons had disappeared. I had 2 reasons to be strong. So I stopped being the girl who wanted your love and became the woman who didn't need it. Where did you go after you left? Georgia. My aunt lived here. She took me in, helped with the pregnancy. I worked 3 jobs until the boys were born. Then 4 jobs after. Zinnia's voice remained flat, reciting facts. I started a consulting business from her kitchen table. Made smart investments. Found people who believed in competence over pedigree. 5 years later, Vance Capital Management has offices in 12 cities. You built an empire. I built a life. There's a difference. She tapped the contract. Clock's ticking, Caspian. Sign or leave. Either way. I'm done with you by 3 o'clock. Picked up the pen. Put it down. Picked it up again. Can I see them before I decide? Just talk to them. Why? So you can confuse them. Hurt them when you disappear again. Zinnia shook her head. You don't get to play father for an afternoon and call it redemption. I'm not asking for redemption. I'm asking for 5 minutes to meet my sons. They're not yours. They're mine. I was there for every midnight fever, every nightmare, every scraped knee and lost tooth. You were busy destroying your life with a woman who saw you coming from miles away. Her composure cracked slightly. Don't you dare walk in here and claim fatherhood because your genetics worked. Caspian set down the pen, stood up, looked her in the eye. You're right about all of it. I was cruel, blind, unforgivably selfish. I threw away the best thing that ever happened to me because I was too stupid to see value in anything that didn't come wrapped in money and status. His voice shook. But those boys deserve better than a father who ran away twice. If I sign this, I'm abandoning them again. And I can't. Then enjoy prison. So be it. He turned toward the door. At least I'll know I tried to do one decent thing in my miserable life. Stop. He paused, hand on the doorknob. Zinnia stood, and for the first time since he'd arrived, he saw uncertainty in her eyes. You're seriously choosing possible prison time over freedom. I'm choosing to not be the man who abandoned his sons. Twice, he faced her. I know I have no rights, no claim. But if there's any shred of mercy left in you, let me try. Not for me, for them, so they don't grow up wondering why their father never fought for them. They won't wonder. I'll tell them you were a coward. Better a coward who tried than one who ran. He took a breath. Please, Zinnia, I'm begging you, let me be part of their lives. However you want. Supervised visits, birthdays, anything. I'll take whatever scraps you're willing to give. She stared at him for a long moment. Then she pressed a button on her desk. Rebecca, bring the boys back. Caspian's knees nearly buckled. When Soren and Alaric returned, they were arguing again. This time about which superhero was strongest. Boys, Zinnia said quietly. I need to tell you something important. They went still, sensing the shift in atmosphere. She looked at Caspian, and he saw the warning in her eyes. Hurt them, and I'll destroy you. This is your father, she said simply. The words hung in the air like thunder before a storm. Soren's eyes went wide. Alaric grabbed his brother's hand. And Caspian fell to his knees because his legs simply gave out. Tears streaming down his face as he looked at the two miracles he'd never deserved. Soren spoke first, his voice small and uncertain. Our father, our real father. Zinnia's hand trembled slightly before she steadied it. Yes, baby. Your biological father. Alaric stepped forward, braver than his brother. He studied Caspian with those blue eyes that were like looking in a mirror. Why are you crying? Caspian wiped his face with shaking hands. Because I'm meeting you for the first time, and you're the most beautiful things I've ever seen. Were not things, Soren corrected, still holding back. Were people. Despite everything, Caspian almost laughed. You're right. I'm sorry. You're the most beautiful people I've ever seen. Alaric tilted his head. Mom said our father lived far away, that he couldn't be with us. The accusation in those words, innocent as they were, cut deeper than any knife. That's true, Caspian managed. I did live far away, and I couldn't be with you. But not because I didn't want to. Liar. Soren's voice was sharp. For 4 years old, he had his mother's ability to see through deception. Mum doesn't lie. If you wanted to be with us, you would have been. Zinnia cleared her throat. Soren, that's enough. No. Caspian held up a hand. He's right. I should have been here. I made terrible choices. Hurt your mother. Hurt you before you were even born. There's no excuse for that. Alaric moved closer, studying Caspian's face with scientific precision. You have my eyes. You have mine. Caspian corrected gently. And your mother's beautiful skin and her brave heart. How do you know we have brave hearts? You don't know us. The simple truth of it shattered something inside him. You're right. I don't know you. But I'd like to. If you'll let me. If your mother allows it. Both boys turned to Zinnia, waiting for her judgment. She looked like she was being torn in half. Her professional mask had cracked, revealing the protective mother underneath. Boys, go with Rebecca. I need to finish talking to Mr. Sterling. Is he staying? Alaric asked. Or leaving like before? I don't know yet. Soren grabbed his brother's hand again. Come on, Alaric. Let's go. As they left, Alaric turned back once more. If you stay, will you teach me chess? Mom says our grandfather was really good at chess. Caspian's throat closed. I'd love to teach you chess. Okay. Don't leave before we come back. The door closed behind them. Zinnia sat down heavily, her composure finally breaking. She pressed her fingers to her temples. This is insane. I planned this for months. Every detail. Every word. I was going to make you sign that contract and never see you again. Her voice fractured. Why couldn't you just take the deal and disappear? Because I'm tired of running from my mistakes. Caspian remained on his knees, unable to stand. And because those boys deserve better than a ghost for a father. They've been fine without you. Have they? He looked at her carefully. Or have they just learned to adapt? Kids are resilient, Zinnia. But resilient doesn't mean undamaged. She flinched. Tell me they've never asked about me. Tell me they've never wondered why other kids have fathers and they don't. Tell me you haven't seen them watch other families at the park and felt your heart break. Stop. I can't. He crawled closer to her desk, dignity abandoned. Because I'm finally seeing clearly for the first time in my life. And what I see is two little boys who look at their mother like she hung the moon because she's all they have. But I also see the questions in their eyes, the wondering, the gap I left. Zinnia's hands were shaking now. You don't get to waltz in here and pretend 5 years of absence can be fixed with pretty words. I know. God, I know. He laid his forehead against her desk like a supplicant at an altar. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking for a chance to do better. To be better. Why should I believe you'll change? Because I have nothing left but the truth. Sloan destroyed my pride. The courts destroyed my reputation. Life destroyed every illusion I had about who I was. He looked up at her, and his eyes were raw. The man who married you was a monster. An entitled, cruel, pathetic excuse for a human being. That man is dead, Zinnia. What's left is just someone trying to figure out how to be worth the air he breathes. She studied him for a long moment. Rebecca, she called. The assistant appeared immediately. Yes. Cancel my afternoon meetings. All of them. Of course. Rebecca disappeared without questions. Zinnia stood and walked to the window, her back to Caspian. I want to tell you a story about a girl who believed in fairy tales. He stayed quiet, sensing this was important. She married a prince who treated her like a servant, who threw her into mirrors and called her adept, who laughed at her cooking and mocked her tears. Zinnia's voice was distant. That girl died the night she signed divorce papers with a baby kicking in her belly. Zinnia, let me finish. She pressed her palm against the glass. She died and someone else was born. Someone harder. Someone who swore she'd never be vulnerable again. Never let anyone have power over her heart. I did that to you. Yes, you did. She turned and tears tracked down her face. But those boys upstairs, they cracked that armor. Made me soft again in ways that terrified me. Because loving them meant being vulnerable. Meant my heart could break again. I won't hurt them. I swear. You can't promise that. She walked back to her desk. Because hurt happens. Even with the best intentions. But what I need to know is if you'll show up when you do hurt them. If you'll apologize. Repair. Stay. I will. My father believed in your father's honor. Died believing it. Zinnia picked up the contract she'd written. The one that would have erased him from their lives. Part of me wants to honor that belief. The other part wants to protect my sons from any more disappointment. What do you need from me? What would make you trust me? She was quiet for so long he thought she wouldn't answer. Time, she finally said, and consistency, and proof that you're not the man you were. How do I prove that? You don't. Not today. Not this week. Maybe not for years. She tore the contract in half. But you can start by being honest. About everything. No more hiding. No more pride. Caspi nodded. Ask me anything. Did you ever think about us? In those 5 years? The question was a trap, but he'd promised honesty. No, he admitted, and watched her face close. Not at first. I convinced myself you were better off. That I'd done you a favor by letting you go. I buried myself in work and Sloan and building an empire to prove I didn't need anyone. And later, I'd wake up at 3 in the morning and wonder if you'd had the babies. If they were boys or girls. If they looked like you. His voice dropped. I'd imagine calling you, apologizing. But pride always won. I told myself too much time had passed. That you'd moved on. That reaching out would only hurt you more. It would have, she said quietly. Back then, I wasn't ready to see you. I had too much anger. Too much pain. And now I have something stronger than anger. I have purpose. Those boys are my purpose. She sat down again, exhaustion showing through. Which is why this terrifies me. Letting you in means risking their hearts, not just mine. A knock interrupted them. Rebecca poked her head in. Sorry to interrupt, but Soren is asking if Mr. Sterling is still here. He wants to show him something. Zinnia looked at Caspian. It's your choice. You can leave now. Come back another day when I've had time to think. Or you can stay and meet your sons properly. But if you stay, you're committing. No more running. I'll stay. Even knowing I might still decide this won't work. Even then, she nodded slowly. Send them in, Rebecca. The boys bounded in carrying a photo album, Alaric in the lead. We want to show you pictures, he announced. So you know what you missed. It was the cruelest kindness Caspian had ever received. They climbed onto the couch, one on each side of him, and opened the album. That's us when we were born. Soren pointed. Mum says we were really tiny. Two impossibly small babies in knit caps, one wearing blue and one wearing green. Zinnia between them, exhausted and radiant. You were perfect, Caspian whispered, page after page. First smiles, first steps, birthdays, Christmases. A whole childhood he'd missed. That's when I lost my tooth. Alaric pointed proudly. The tooth fairy gave me $5. That's when Soren learned to swim. Zinnia added softly, standing behind the couch. He was terrified of water. Took 6 months of lessons. Caspian traced the photos with gentle fingers, memorizing every detail. This is Grandpa Marcus. Soren pointed to an older man with kind eyes. He died last year. He was really nice. He taught us chess, Alaric added, and told us stories about Mom when she was little. Marcus Vance, Zinnia's uncle, the man who'd stepped into the role Caspian had abandoned. He looks like a good man. He was the best, Soren said fiercely. He said real men show up. That's how you know they're real. Another arrow, perfectly aimed. They went through the entire album, every milestone, every memory. Caspian's chest ached with the weight of all he'd lost. When they reached the last page, Alaric looked up at him. So now you know us. Are you going to stay, or leave again? 4 years old and already protecting his heart. Caspian looked at Zinnia over their heads. She was crying silently, watching her sons be brave. I'm going to stay, he promised. If your mother lets me, I'm going to show up. And keep showing up until you believe me. Okay. Alaric seemed satisfied. But if you leave, I'll be really mad. Too, Soren added. So don't. I won't. Zinnia wiped her eyes. Boys, why don't you go play for a bit? Mr. Sterling and I need to talk about grown-up things. They scrambled off the couch, but paused at the door. You can call us Soren and Alaric, Alaric said. Not the boys. We have names. Soren and Alaric, Caspian repeated. Thank you for showing me your album. When they left, silence fell heavy. Zinnia sat across from him, and he saw the war happening behind her eyes. This is conditional, she finally said. You'll see them only when I approve it. Supervised at first. If you miss one visit, we're done. If you hurt them, we're done. If you make promises you can't keep, we're done. Understood. And you owe me an explanation. About Sloan. About how you fell so far so fast. Because my sons need to understand that their father isn't a criminal. Even if he is a fool. I'll tell you everything. She pulled out a fresh contract. Much simpler than the first. This is a custody agreement. You get supervised visits, twice a week to start. I maintain primary custody. You pay child support backdated to their birth. I don't have any money. You will. Once I clear your name. She slid it across. I'm not doing this for you, Caspian. I'm doing it for them. And for my father's memory. He believed people could change. I'm going to honor that belief. But the second you prove me wrong, this ends. He signed without reading it. Thank you, he whispered. I know I don't deserve. You don't. But maybe you can earn it. She stood. Now tell me about Sloan Whitmore. Every detail. Because tomorrow we destroy her. Zinnia poured 2 glasses of whiskey and handed one to Caspian. Start from the beginning. How did she get her claws into you? He took a long drink, the burn steadying him. 2 months after the divorce. I was at a gala, drunk and angry at the world. She approached me at the bar. Let me guess. Beautiful, charming, said exactly what you wanted to hear. She told me I deserved better. That my father had sold my future for sentiment. That I was finally free to build something real. Caspian stared into his glass. I was so desperate to believe I'd made the right choice. That leaving you was smart, not cruel. She became proof of that. And you never suspected. Why would I? She came from money. Her family had connections. She seemed perfect on paper. He laughed bitterly. I thought I'd upgraded. From a forced marriage to a chosen partnership. God, I was such a fool. Zinnia sat back, studying him. What was her first move? She suggested I expand internationally. Said her father had contacts in Singapore. Tech investments. Guaranteed returns. He set down the glass. I should have done more research. Should have verified. But she made it so easy. Brought me glossy presentations. Introduced me to people who seemed legitimate. How long before you signed the first transfer? 6 months. She was patient. Built trust slowly. Had me meet her partners at conferences. Everything looked real. Did you love her? The question caught him off guard. He considered lying, then remembered his promise. No. I don't think I was capable of love then. I liked having her on my arm. Liked that she made me look good. But love. He shook his head. I'm not sure I understood what that word meant until I saw Soren and Alaric today. Zinnia's expression softened slightly. When did you realize it was a trap? When the board showed me the transfers. $43 million into shell companies. My signature on everything. He ran his hands through his hair. I called her immediately. She didn't even pretend. Just laughed and told me I'd made it easy. That I was so focused on my reflection, I never saw the knife. She was right about that. Yeah. He met her eyes. She was right about a lot of things. I used people. Saw them as tools for my ambition. She just used me the same way. Poetic justice. Really. Except you're not the only one who suffered. Your employees lost their jobs. Investors lost money. Your family name is destroyed. I know. That's the worst part. My arrogance didn't just hurt me. It hurt innocent people. He leaned forward. How are you going to clear my name? What evidence do you have? Zinnia smiled, and it was sharp as a blade. I have something better than evidence. I have Marcus Chen. Ooh. The real Marcus Chen. CFO of a legitimate tech firm in Singapore. Sloan used his name and credentials to create a fake company. But the real Chen noticed someone was using his identity 6 months ago. He hired investigators. They traced everything back to Sloan. Why didn't he go public? Because he wanted ironclad proof. And because I convinced him to wait. She pulled out a folder thick with documents. I've been tracking Sloan since she took over Sterling Enterprises. Knew she'd get greedy. Make a mistake. What mistake? She tried the same scheme again. Different company, different victim. But this time, the money trail was sloppier. She got cocky. Zinnia spread photos across the desk. These are her real accounts. Cayman Islands, Switzerland, 43 million from you. Another 20 million from a tech CEO in Boston. And attempts at a third target in Seattle. Caspian stared at the evidence. This would destroy her. It will destroy her. Tomorrow morning, we're releasing everything to the SEC, FBI, and every major news outlet. By noon, Sloan Whitmore will be arrested. By evening, you'll be exonerated. Just like that. Just like that. She gathered the photos. But there's more. I want Sterling Enterprises back. For you. He blinked. What? The company your family built. It should stay in your family. Once Sloan is gone and you're cleared, I'm going to help you reclaim it. Why would you do that? Because my sons carry the Sterling name. Because that company represents their grandfather's legacy too. She met his eyes. And because watching you rebuild from nothing will show them what real strength looks like. Not the fake gold you were before, but something genuine. Caspian felt his throat tighten. I can't afford to buy it back. I can. Vance Capital will purchase it from the bankruptcy proceedings. You'll work for me initially. Earn your way back to CEO. Prove you've changed. You'd trust me with that kind of power again. No. But I'll trust the board I put in place to keep you accountable. And I'll trust that you know this is your last chance. She stood. Tomorrow changes everything. Are you ready? What happens after tomorrow? You start your new life. Supervised visits with the boys. Work for Vance Capital. Rebuild your reputation one decision at a time. She walked to the window. And we figure out how to be parents together. Not partners. Not friends. Just two people raising children. Can I ask you something? Maybe. Do you hate me still? Zinnia was quiet for a long moment. I did. For years. Hated you so much it burned. I'd imagine running into you and showing you everything you'd lost, making you hurt the way you hurt me. And now I'm just tired. Hate takes energy, Caspian. Energy I need for my sons, for my company, for building the life I want. She turned to face him. You're not worth my hatred anymore. But you're not worth my forgiveness either. You're just the father of my children, and we need to find a way to exist in that reality. That's fair. There's something else you need to know. She hesitated. The boys have nightmares sometimes. About abandonment. About people leaving. Alaric especially. He has anxiety attacks. Guilt crushed his chest. Because of me. Because their reality included an absent father. Child psychologists say kids internalize that. Wonder if they weren't good enough to make you stay. Jesus. He covered his face. How do I fix that? You don't fix it. You just show up, consistently. Let them learn that you're reliable, that they matter. It'll take time, maybe years, but eventually the nightmares will fade. A knock interrupted them. Rebecca again. Sorry, but the boys are getting restless. Asking if they can have dinner with their father. Zinnia looked at Caspian. Your choice. But if you stay, you're eating chicken fingers and mac and cheese. That's what they want tonight. I can't think of anything I'd rather eat. Her smile was small but real. Then let's go. But ground rules. You follow my lead. You don't make promises you can't keep. And when it's time to leave, you say goodbye properly. No sneaking out. Understood. Understood. Dinner was chaos in the best way. The boys talked over each other, showing Caspian their toys, their drawings, their entire universe in the span of an hour. Zinnia watched from the kitchen, and Caspian caught her wiping tears more than once. You like Spider-Man? Alaric asked, holding up an action figure. I do now. Good, because he's the best. Alaric climbed into the chair next to him. Do you live here? In Georgia. No. I live in Rhode Island, but I'm going to visit a lot. If that's okay with you. It's okay with me, Soren said. But you have to call before you come. Mom says that's polite. I will definitely call first. After dinner, Zinnia announced bedtime. The boys groaned but obeyed. Can he read us a story? Alaric asked. Zinnia looked at Caspian. Can you handle a bedtime story? I can try. Their room was perfect. Bunk beds with space-themed sheets. Books everywhere. Drawings taped to walls. Evidence of happy childhoods. Caspian read them. Where the wild things are. His voice cracking at the part where Max sails home to where someone loves him best. Soren fell asleep first, curled around a stuffed elephant. Alaric fought it longer, eyes drooping. Will you be here tomorrow? Not tomorrow, but soon. I promise. Okay. Don't forget us. Never. Caspian tucked the blanket around him. I could never forget you. When both boys were asleep, he found Zinnia in the hallway, arms crossed. You're a natural, she said quietly. I'm terrified I'll mess this up. You will. Every parent does. The question is whether you'll stay and fix it when you do. She walked him to the door. Tomorrow, meet me at my office at 9. We're holding a press conference at noon. You'll need to answer questions. Can you do that without falling apart? I'll do whatever it takes. Good. She opened the door, then paused. Caspian, thank you. For what? For not signing that first contract. For fighting to stay. The boys deserve that, even if it scares me. I won't let them down again. See that you don't. She closed the door, leaving him standing in the hallway of a life that could have been his all along. The next morning, news broke like a tidal wave. Every major outlet ran the story. Sloan Whitmore arrested in massive fraud scheme. Caspian Sterling exonerated. Billionaire Harris behind multi-million-dollar con. By noon, Caspian stood at a podium next to Zinnia, facing a room full of reporters. Mr. Sterling, how does it feel to be vindicated? honestly. It feels like waking up from a nightmare. But I'm not here to celebrate. I'm here to apologize. He looked directly at the cameras. I made terrible decisions that hurt innocent people. My arrogance created opportunities for someone like Sloan to exploit. I take full responsibility for that. Ems. Vance, why did you decide to help him? Zinnia stepped forward, poised and powerful. Because the truth matters more than personal grudges. Mr. Sterling may have made mistakes, but he didn't commit fraud. Justice requires we separate the two. Are you too personally involved? No, she said firmly. We have a professional relationship based on mutual interest in clearing an innocent man's name. Caspian watched her lie with practiced ease, protecting their sons from public scrutiny. After the conference, they stood in her office again. That went well, she said. You were amazing. I know. She smiled slightly. The board is voting you back into Sterling Enterprises next week. Provisional CEO. I'll own controlling interest through Vance Capital. Think you can handle that? Working for my ex-wife. Sounds like penance. Good. Because that's exactly what it is. She handed him a folder. Visitation schedule. Tuesdays and Thursdays, 4 to 7. Saturdays, noon to 5. All supervised for the first 3 months. He took it like it was made of gold. Thank you. Don't thank me. Prove me right. She walked him to the elevator. And Caspian. The boys asked if you'd come to Alaric's birthday party next month. It's at a trampoline park. Very loud, very chaotic. I'll be there. Good. The elevator dinged. See you Tuesday. As the doors closed, Caspian looked at his reflection in the polished metal. The golden boy was gone. In his place stood someone humbler. Someone broken and rebuilt. Someone who finally understood what mattered. 3 months passed like lessons in humility. Caspian showed up every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday without fail. Rain, shine, exhaustion, it didn't matter. He learned that consistency wasn't grand gestures but small, repeated acts of presence. The first month, the boys treated him like a curious stranger. Polite but distant. They'd show him things but wouldn't let him touch. Would answer questions, but wouldn't ask them back. Alaric's anxiety attacks happened twice in Caspian's presence. Once when Caspian had to leave early for a business call. The boy hyperventilated, convinced he'd done something wrong. It's not you, Caspian had said, kneeling down while Zinnia coached him through it. I have to go to a meeting. But I'm coming back Thursday. I promise. People always say that. Alaric's little chest heaved. Then they don't come back. Who told you that? Nobody. I just know it. That night, Caspian called Zinnia. Cancel all my Tuesday and Thursday meetings. Permanently. Nothing is more important than those hours. You can't run a company like that. Watch me. By month 2, things shifted. Soren started asking questions about Caspian's childhood, his parents. Why his eyes were the same color as theirs. Did you know our mom when we were in her belly? Soren asked one Thursday while they built with blocks. I did. Briefly. Did you want us? The question landed like a bomb. Zinnia froze from where she was reading on the couch. This was the moment she'd been dreading. Caspian set down his block carefully. I didn't know how to want anything real back then. I was scared and selfish. But the second I saw you both, I wanted you more than I've ever wanted anything in my life. But you left before we were born. I did. And that was the worst mistake I ever made. Why did you leave? How do you explain adult failures to a 4-year-old? Because I was broken inside. And I didn't know how to fix it. So I ran away instead of staying and trying. Soren considered this. Mum says broken things can be fixed if you're patient. Your mom is very wise. Are you fixed now? I'm trying to be. Every day, I try a little harder. Soren nodded, satisfied, and went back to building. Zinnia caught Caspian's eye and mouthed, "Well done." That night, after the boys were asleep, she poured them both coffee. "You handled that better than I expected." "I'm learning." Slowly. He wrapped his hands around the mug. "How do you do this every day?" The questions, the emotions, the constant vigilance. "You just do. Because the alternative is letting them down." She sat across from him. "But it's hard. Some nights I collapse after they're asleep and wonder if I'm screwing them up anyway." "You're an incredible mother, Zinnia." "I'm a terrified mother who's winging it." She smiled tiredly. "But thank you." These moments had become more common. Brief conversations after the boys slept. Coffee and honesty. Not quite friendship, but something like a ceasefire. "Can I ask you something personal?" Caspian ventured. "Depends on how personal." "Have you dated?" "Since the divorce." She laughed. "When would I have time? Between building a company and raising twins, romance isn't exactly a priority." "You deserve happiness, though." "I have happiness. It just looks different than I imagined." She studied him. "What about you?" After Sloane. "Haven't even looked at another woman. The idea of trusting someone like that again." He shuddered. "Besides, I'm too busy learning how to be human." "How's that going?" "Some days better than others." He set down his mug. "The company is harder than I expected. Having a boss is humbling." "I'm not that bad." "You're terrifying. You see through every excuse, every shortcut. It's like working for my conscience." "Good. You need one." But she smiled. "You're doing well, though. The board notices. You've cut costs without cutting people. Found ethical solutions instead of easy ones. Because I'm trying to build something that won't collapse the second someone tests it." That's growth. By month 3, Alaric started calling him Dad instead of Mr. Sterling. It happened casually, while they were playing chess. Alaric was learning fast, his little mind absorbing strategy like a sponge. "Dad, is this checkmate?" Caspian's hand froze over the board. He looked at Zinnia, who'd gone very still. Alaric noticed the reaction. "Is that okay? Can I call you Dad?" "Yes." Caspian's voice broke. "You can call me whatever you want." "Okay. Then you're Dad. Is this checkmate?" "It is. You won." Alaric beamed, and Caspian had to excuse himself to the bathroom to cry. Soren took longer. He still called Caspian by his first name, maintaining careful distance. Zinnia explained he was the more cautious twin. Needed more proof before he trusted. "He's protecting himself," she said. "And probably protecting Alaric too. He takes being the older twin seriously, even if it's only by 3 minutes. I can wait. I'll wait as long as he needs." The breakthrough came at Alaric's 5th birthday party. The trampoline park was chaos. 20 kids hopped on sugar and adrenaline. Parents clustered in groups, making small talk. Caspian felt completely out of place, but stayed because he'd promised. Halfway through, A bigger kid pushed Alaric off a trampoline. Not maliciously, just rough play. But Alaric landed wrong and started crying. Caspian was there before Zinnia, scooping him up. Let me see. Where does it hurt? My wrist. Tears streamed down Alaric's face. The wrist was already swelling. Caspian carried him to Zinnia. We need ice. Maybe urgent care. Zinnia was already grabbing her keys. I'll drive. Can you hold him? In the car, Alaric curled against Caspian's chest, still crying softly. You're okay, buddy. We're going to get you fixed up. It hurts. I know. You're being very brave. Soren sat on Caspian's other side, unusually quiet. When they got to urgent care, he grabbed Caspian's hand. Is Alaric going to be okay? He's going to be fine. Probably just a sprain. I don't like when he's hurt. It makes my stomach feel weird. That's because you love him. When people we love hurt, we hurt too. Soren looked up at him with those two knowing eyes. Do you love us? More than anything in the world. Even though you didn't before. Caspian knelt down, ignoring the people around them. I was sick before. Sick in my heart and my head. I couldn't love anyone, not even myself. But being with you and Alaric, you healed me, taught me how to love. So yes, I love you, both of you, more than my own life. Soren studied his face for a long moment. Then he wrapped his small arms around Caspian's neck and whispered, Okay, Dad. Caspian held him and cried there in the waiting room, not caring who saw. When Zinnia came out with Alaric, his wrist wrapped but not broken, she found both her sons clinging to Caspian like he might disappear. Just a bad sprain, she announced. He'll be fine in a few weeks. Can Dad come home with us? Alaric asked. I don't want him to leave yet. Zinnia looked at Caspian, a question in her eyes. Please, Mom, Soren added. Just for tonight, she sighed. One night. But he sleeps on the couch. That evening was the closest thing to normal Caspian had ever experienced. They ordered pizza, watched a movie. The boys fell asleep on either side of him, their small bodies trusting and warm. Zinnia covered them with a blanket. I'll carry them to bed. Let me. Caspian lifted Alaric first, careful of his wrist, then Soren. Tucked them both in and kissed their foreheads. When he came back, Zinnia was pouring wine. That was a big day, she said. Soren called me Dad. I heard. How do you feel? Terrified. Honored. Completely unworthy. He accepted the wine. Like I've been given something precious, and I'm going to break it. You might. Parents mess up. It's inevitable. She sat next to him on the couch, closer than usual. But you're trying. That's what matters. Thank you for this. For giving me a chance I didn't deserve. My father used to say everyone deserves a chance to be better than their worst moment. She swirled her wine. I'm starting to think he was right. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the fire Zinnia had lit. Can I tell you something? Caspian said quietly. What? You're the strongest person I've ever met. What you built, how you raised them, the grace you've shown me when you had every right to destroy me. He looked at her. I was a fool. 5 years ago, standing in that mansion, I had everything and couldn't see it. You were young and damaged. We both were. You were never damaged, just hurt. There's a difference. I was damaged plenty. Still am, in some ways. She set down her glass. I have nightmares sometimes. About that night. The mirror, your words. I wake up feeling small again. Zinnia, I'm so sorry. I know you are, and I'm working through it. Therapy helps, so does watching you grovel. She smiled slightly. That's a joke. I deserve the groveling. You do. But I'm getting tired of it. She turned to face him. I want to move forward, not forget. Never forget. But stop living in the past. What does moving forward look like? I don't know yet, but maybe it starts with forgiveness. Not for you. For me. So I can stop carrying this weight. Do you forgive me? She was quiet for a long time. Ask me again in a year. After you've proven this isn't temporary. After the boys trust you completely. After you've shown me the man you're becoming is real. Fair enough. But I can tell you this. She met his eyes. I don't hate you anymore. And that's something. It's everything. A cry from the bedroom interrupted them. Alaric's voice calling for his mom. They both stood, but Alaric's next word stopped them. Want Dad? Is Dad still here? Zinnia gestured. He's asking for you? Caspian went to the bedroom, heart full. Alaric was sitting up, holding his hurt wrist. I had a bad dream. That you left and didn't come back. I'm right here. Not going anywhere. Promise. I promise. Want me to stay until you fall back asleep? Alaric nodded, scooting over to make room. Caspian lay down next to him, and Alaric curled into his side. Dad? Yeah, buddy. I'm glad you came back, even though you left before. Me too. Best decision I ever made. Good, because we need you. Me and Soren and Mom.
We're better when you're here.
Within minutes, Alaric was asleep again. Caspian lay there in the dark, listening to his son breathe, and felt something settle in his chest. Purpose, belonging, love. All the things he'd thrown away were being handed back to him piece by piece. And this time, he wouldn't let go. 1 year later, Caspian stood in Zinnia's backyard watching the twins play soccer. They were 6 now. Taller, braver, undeniably his. Dead. Watch this. Soren kicked the ball perfectly into the goal. Incredible! Do it again! Zinnia appeared beside him with lemonade. You're spoiling them. That's my job. He smiled. How'd the board meeting go? They voted. You're officially CEO again. Full control. She handed him the glass. Congratulations. I couldn't have done it without you. I know. That's why I'm your largest shareholder. Keeps you honest. They'd found a rhythm over the year. Co-parenting that worked. Business partnership that thrived. Something deeper neither had named yet. Zinnia, can I ask you something? That question. About forgiveness. Can I ask it again? She turned to face him, the evening sun catching her face. Yes, I forgive you, Caspian. Not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace. Thank you. His voice cracked. For everything. For our sons. For saving me. For? Stop. She pressed a finger to his lips. You saved yourself. I just held the door open. The boys ran over, sweaty and laughing. Can Dad stay for dinner? Alaric asked. And movie night, Soren added. Zinnia looked at Caspian, something soft in her eyes. Actually, I was thinking Dad could stay more than just tonight. The boys erupted in cheers. Caspian's heart stopped. What are you saying? I'm saying this family needs to stop being divided. The boys need their father here. And maybe, she took a breath, maybe I need you here too. Are you sure? No, but I'm willing to try if you are. He pulled her close, forehead to forehead. I've been trying for a year to earn my way back. Not just to them. To you. I know. I've been watching. And you're not the man I married. You're better. Kinder. Real. She smiled. So let's start over. Not as strangers. As people who survived the worst and chose each other anyway. The boys hugged their legs, chattering about where Dad would sleep and which room would be his office. Caspian looked at Zinnia over their heads. I love you. I should have said it 5 years ago. But I'm saying it now. I know. Her eyes glistened, and someday I might say it back. I'll wait. You'd better. That night, after the boys were asleep, they sat on the porch under Georgia's stars. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we'd gotten it right the first time? Caspian asked. No, because we weren't ready. You needed to fall. I needed to rise. We both needed to break before we could build something real. He took her hand. Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for becoming worth the effort. Somewhere inside, their sons slept peacefully. No more nightmares about abandonment. No more wondering if they were enough. Just 2 boys who knew, without question, they were loved. And 2 broken people who'd found wholeness in the pieces they'd glued back together. The mirror had shattered 5 years ago. But what they'd built from the broken glass was something far more beautiful. Something real. Something that would last.